2 minutes. We just want to let everybody trickle in. We had almost 200 people register for this, so clearly there's some need out there. So grab your coffee, grab your pen and paper. We are going to do a quick whirlwind tour of kind of emergency crisis cash flow management, which I've done plenty of over the years building our practice. And then we'll do a Q&A with Lisa at the end on manual filing of claims on the Change Healthcare debacle. So hopefully all that will help you. You can put questions in the chat. You can put questions in the Q&A section, and we will try and grab them out of there. So, oh, somebody put in the chat, Lisa, how many claims do we do in a month? What, 1, 2, 5?
In a month, it could be upwards to 15,000.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know us, I'm Ken Clark. I am a group practice owner, marriage and family therapist. We have somewhere around 275 to 300 staff in Arkansas, a few other states. We do about 150,000 sessions a year of mental health in our group practice. So we're probably one of the largest in the country. On the call with me is Lisa Sego, who is our incredible director of revenue. So she oversees everything from credit card processing to claim submission to collections, collection agency relationships, all that kind of stuff. So Lisa, real quickly, let's background on you. How big's your team that works for you?
Team of 18. They're kind of
Team
divided
of
up into
18.
segments, but
Yeah. So that includes federal payers, state payers, Medicaid, a couple of people just run credit cards for a living. So Lisa's team processes last year was probably about somewhere between 16 and 17 million dollars in revenue. So she is as good as they come in the industry. I'll make the commercial for her now. She also does coaching. I'll point you towards our website at the end of this, but she does coaching for youth practice owners, for billing managers, for billing teams. She can help you navigate a lot of stuff. Okay, so we're going to get started. I'm going to run through some just kind of emergency cash flow management protocol, kind of how I've done it over the years. As always, these are not all the right answers. Some of them may even be wrong answers for you, but they're what's worked for us. And hopefully it will help you. So plenty of times over the last 15 years of building a practice, we've found ourselves in a cash flow crunch in a corner. Sometimes those were my own fault as a practice owner, growing too fast or overextending. That's part of learning to be an entrepreneur. Other times it was things beyond our control. There was a EHR shutdown probably 6 or 7 years ago where our EHR just went offline for 2 weeks across the country. That meant no claims, no schedules, all that kind of stuff. And then if any of you have been around, especially insurance or Medicaid or any of these long enough, you know that things can just go sideways on their end, and those companies stop paying claims, and good luck getting somebody on the phone to tell you what's going on. So this is something that's relevant, even if you haven't found yourself in this position yet. Hopefully this will be helpful. As we go, I will try and stop after each of the kind of 5 sections I've outlined here, let you ask questions. Again, feel free to even jump in, post in the comments things that you found helpful. I am not the authority by any stretch. We all learn from each other. Okay, real quickly on the emergency cash flow management side, step number 1 is to not panic. You're therapists, right? You know when you're operating from your amygdala, your brain does not work very well. You're not a creative problem solver. So whatever you need to do to talk yourself off the ledge is probably going to be one of the most important steps in this whole process, because otherwise you're just going to remain paralyzed and locked up. I will tell you that the vast majority of practices and businesses that I've coached or consulted with over the years that are experiencing a cash flow crisis that is beyond their control. In other words, somebody's not paying them or something like that, as opposed to they're just mismanaging their business. They survive. And it's scary for a few weeks, and it's stressful, and some of your hair falls out. and they survive. And that's why I'm not panicking this time with the Change Healthcare thing. We've done this enough. So number one, realize that, and every business group that I hang out with, every peer group, everybody's got their 10 stories about this. So if this is your first rodeo, welcome to it. You're probably going to be fine. Take a deep breath right now. Um, Number two, realize, and this was an important realization for me, that you going out of business is bad for a lot of people. In other words, there's a lot of other parties that want to see this resolve. It doesn't matter if it's your landlord or Change Healthcare or your insurance provider or Therapy Notes or whoever. In the end, you ceasing to exist means you cease to be a customer. It's bad for their reputations. It creates hassle in their world, right? If you go bankrupt, then your landlord's got to find a new tenant. Like, they all have a vested interest in you surviving. That's also important to realize here, because a lot of parties will work with you if you get painted into a corner. Number three, the overall strategy when you are in a cash flow crunch is very simple. You want to speed up money coming in, and you want to slow down money going out, right? That's where you're going to find your life raft is, if you can make more money come in and you can slow down money going out, and maybe even more than you usually do. This is where we stretch our businesses and pull off things that we think we haven't, but that's the basic strategy we're going for today. And I want you to remember, because I've been painted into a corner before where I didn't think we were going to make payroll or something like that. We always have. But one of the realizations that helps talk me out of my amygdala and back into my prefrontal cortex is that not being able to pay some of your bills or even some of your staff doesn't mean you're not able to pay any of your bills or any of your staff. In other words, the number of people that you may alienate as part of a cash flow crisis is a lot smaller than you think. The whole world is not going to show up at your door with pitchforks and torches. What this might mean is a landlord doesn't get paid, or some of your staff may have to flex, but there'll be other people that, if you juggle this correctly, they won't feel the pinch at all. In other words, the damage, even if it's going to be there, is a lot less than you think. So let me stop there. I'm going to do this with every one of these. I've got 5 sections here before we get into talking to Lisa. Any questions or thoughts, you can put them in the chat. You can put them in the Q&A about the mental game of this. Anybody need to tell me to tell you that you're going to survive? I'll be the cheesy moderator here. If you've survived a cash flow crunch before, do everybody else a favor, and we're just gonna have a I've done it too moment. If you survived a cash flow crunch and you're here to stress about this one, just type "I survived" into the chat, and that way other people who are new to this will see that people have done this before and they don't need to panic. Okay, yay! See, people have survived. Okay, next. Um, so here's what you need to do in managing cash flow crunches. You need to prioritize. And I'm stealing this. A lot of my stuff is stolen from other people, right? Creativity is just forgetting where you stole something from. But I heard somebody once talk about prioritizing, and they talked about the people at the carnival that spin plates or in street performers, and that there's going to be glass plates, plastic plates, and rubber plates in your life. And when the crises come, part of really surviving them is making sure you know the difference between glass plates, plastic plates, and rubber plates. Glass plates will break. They're the ones that if they hit the ground, if they fall off the sticks that you're spinning, you got a problem. They're gone. Maybe they're irreparable. Plastic plates don't break, but they make a lot of noise. They draw a lot of attention, but they survive, and rubber plates bounce. One of the first things you have to do in a cash flow crisis is sit down and categorize. What are my glass plates, my plastic plates, and my rubber plates? In other words, what things cannot hit the ground because they're not recoverable? What things are embarrassing and make some noise, but they don't break. They just have to be survived, the clatter and the clamor, and what things can actually bounce. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you just kind of how I prioritize things, what can't hit the ground, what is survivable. You just probably need a stiff drink, and what is completely okay to let hit the ground. So the one above all else that cannot hit the ground, if you're a practice owner, this maybe is a little different if you're a solo practitioner, but you cannot and should not screw around with your federal payroll tax deposits. It seems like one of the easiest things, the money that you withhold out of people's paychecks. They don't come knocking on your door looking for it a week later if you don't pay it. Uh, Withholding payroll taxes that are due from your employees to the government is actually considered under federal law as theft. It's not a short-term free interest loan. It is theft. So your EFTPS, your 941s, if you've got W-2 type payroll taxes coming out, those have to be submitted. There's a thing called pyramiding, which is an illegal behavior where you use that to cover other stuff. It is one of those ones that's non-negotiable. I'd rather see you lose an employee than get into the cycle of not paying payroll taxes. Number two, the top priority is you've got to direct money towards the things that keep the money flowing. In other words, if you aren't paying your EHR bill and they shut off your ability to file more claims, then it just snowballs the problem, right? So if it comes down to paying your employees or being able to file more claims, you have to make the really hard decision to keep your EHR on and find some way to do the dance and delay payment elsewhere. Same thing with your billing team. At least it would probably be the first to go without a paycheck. I've watched her give her time a lot for free, but in the end, Lisa's probably going to be one of the top priorities as far as getting paid, because if she decides she's done, then we're all toast, right? So your billing department, if you have to prioritize your admin team, not Lisa, she would never do that. She'd probably pay to do the job, right? But you need to make sure your billing and admin team um, aren't going without paychecks. A lot of times these are entry level folks or early in their career. So skipping a paycheck means they're gone, which means you don't know how to file claims. Number three, your reputation as an employer, especially with missed paychecks. That's my number three priority, right? Nobody likes getting a delayed paycheck. That creates a hardship for your employees. But more importantly, when it gets in the water, right? When it gets into the Facebook forums that you're not making payroll, then now you've got people panicking and jumping ship preemptively, and it snowballs you, right? So again, while it might be tempting to juggle payroll there, all it takes is one panicked or disgruntled employee saying they're not making payroll. And you may get more exits. You may get people who were thinking about a job there and now won't work there. Why would you join a company where they're not making payroll? So that's got to be your number three priority. Number four priority is going to be your landlords. We can't a lot of times do therapy without a space to do it in. More than ever, we can with telehealth, but landlords need to be your fourth priority. I know that's really tempting. We don't want our landlords to be mad at us. We can. It's tempting to pay them first and neglect other things, but the landlords are kind of stuck with you like you're stuck with them. They might throw you out at some point, but that means they've got to repurpose the space. They've got to find new tenants. They're losing revenue in the interim. So they can wait a week or two or five if it really comes down to it. You do need to look at your lease and look at what the provisions for late payments are. How much are they going to charge you? Where they have the right to throw you out as a remedy, right? Where they have the right to evict you. But most importantly, you need to reach out to your landlord if you're going to delay payments there and say, hey, we are having financial trouble. It is beyond our control. It's an industry-wide thing. Can we have an extra 2 weeks, an extra 4 weeks, yada, yada. And they may assess the penalty, but getting in writing that they're saying yes, they won't kick you out is important. Okay. Last priority is going to be your vendors, your non-critical vendors. So this is advertising. This is whoever does the house cleaning or office cleaning for the office. Not that I don't want people to get paid, but these are the ones that they'll be mad at you. They're plastic plates. They'll make a lot of noise. They'll call and say, "Where's that bill?" but they're also dependent on you for their livelihood, and they can wait. Within that pool, you want to prioritize anybody that's going to affect your credit score. You would hate for a cash flow crisis to affect your ability to buy a house or buy a building down the road. Most vendors in the business world don't report on individual credit scores, but if you have a company credit card that is that you're a personal guarantor on or anything like that, you need to prioritize those. Um, Go Google does this affect my credit score? You'll find lists of things that don't. Okay, so that's how I would prioritize. That's kind of the order of glass, plastic, and rubber plates. Do we have any questions on what you should prioritize when? Let me look through the chat and the Q&A, and then we'll get on to the next section out of this. Q&A. Okay. Okay, we'll again circle back and make sure there's no missed questions at the end. So how do you stop the immediate cash bleed, right? So this is kind of the third bullet point here. How do we slow down money going out? That's got to be the priority, right? It takes a little longer to bring money in, a little longer lead time than it does to turn off the spigot and keep money from going out. So what are some things that I've done in the past and even in this current situation to stop the bleed? So you want to, and if any of you have seen practice coaching with me or been on the Coffee with Ken practice owner calls we do, you will know that I'm an advocate of you need to be logging into your bank account every day, and you need to have a profit and loss that's prepared by an accountant that you look at least once a month. So you're going through those and looking at all your non-critical expenditures, all the things that come out automatically that you can put the brakes on, that you can turn off, that you can make minimum payments on. So that's the first thing is you just need to get your head around in this panic moment, what is coming out of my bank account when, who expects what. And you're going to look for things in there that you can hit the pause button on, that you can go in and turn off your automatic payment or turn off the automatic check that goes out. I would also suspend all advertising campaigns that are not critical that can be turned on and off. So if you've got Google AdWords, Facebook ads, anything like that, then you want to go in and turn those off right now. Uh, to some degree, right? Bringing in more clients that you can't collect on is probably not a priority nearly as much as getting the money to stop flowing out and trying to capture money that you're already entitled to. Okay, then I would, you need to let your team know if it's bigger than you in your practice. So if you're a solo practice, you just need to remind yourself. But if you've got a team, anybody else that spends money, asks for money, you need to be forthright that we're in a cash flow crunch, especially if it's one beyond your control, like this current Change Healthcare thing. There's no shame there. It's not your fault. And it's everybody needs to be pulling on the oars in the same direction at the same time to get out of this whirlpool. And so you need to let them know, like, hey, temporary 30-day, hold on all non-critical, non-necessary expenditures. So, the fun, end of or Valentine's Day party or St. Patty's Day party we were going to throw, you know what? That's now potluck mode. We're not buying pizza for the whole office. The office furniture that really needs to be redone, it can wait a month. So you need to let your team know that we're in a cash flow crisis. My team, because I think they have been allowed to see the numbers and they care about the practice, they actually come to me with ideas that I didn't know was there, right? That I regularly hear from Lisa or Spring or some of my other folks. Why are we paying for this? We're paying too much for this, right? So there's a huge benefit to letting that team into the finances and letting them find ways to cut expenses. But you got to get them on board. I would switch all your credit cards to minimum payments. Again, you want to do this temporarily. I'm a big fan of whatever your monthly expenditures are on your company credit card. I would actually make a weekly payment for 1/4 of those. That's how I normally manage the credit cards in my practice. That way you never get behind. But in this situation, I would go into your credit card portal, I'd log in, I'd turn everything on to minimum payment. knowing that that money will come in at some point. It drives some of us nuts to have a balance. This is not money that you're not going to pay off. You're just delaying payment. There might be an interest charge, whatever, but that's cheaper than not making payroll. So you want all your credit cards to go on automatic payment. You want to talk to everybody in your world, your student loan provider for your own student loan, your mortgage provider, everybody about kind of emergency situations. So student loans have a thing called forbearance. If you're not familiar with that, you could probably reach out to your student loan provider right now and ask for a forbearance, which means they just stop collecting. You might still accumulate interest, but mortgage companies have temporary forbearances, 30, 60 days where you can be late on your payment and it won't count against your credit score, but you have to talk to them and ask for one of these. So that would free up some cash flow at home in case you need to tighten the belt. And then you need to check with if you got any benefit providers, right? Your health insurance, anything like that. If you're really pressed, you need to find out how long you can delay payments on premiums and things like that. Most states have a 30 or 60-day cancellation provision. So, like in Arkansas, they can't cancel your health insurance, especially a group plan, until you're more than 30 days late on a payment. So that part of you that rushes to be a good steward of money and pay stuff on the day it's due, you got some wiggle room there. Now, the closer you get to the edge of the cliff, the more important it is that you get that money in, right? That eventually those things do get canceled or suspended, but there's probably some wiggle room there. You won't know what it is until you reach out to your insurance company, whoever's got your car payment, et cetera, and let them know. So, okay. Any questions on stopping the bleeding before we talk about where to go find money? Somebody asked, what if you own the building? If you own the building, I think you're in even a better position than if you're leasing, in part because we are going into a really lousy market for commercial building lenders. There's going to be a lot of defaults going on. So I think more and more you're going to see commercial lenders get kind of flexible. Um, so if you own the building, again, I think the most important thing is not to bury your head in the sand. Reach out to your whoever has got the loan on your building. Say this is going on in the industry. It's not us. We're not unstable as a business, but we got this external force. What are my options? Where do I get in trouble? The one thing I would throw in there with a building, a lot of us that have bought buildings, you buy them on like a 3-year balloon note and you refinance every 3 years. So if that was the case, if you don't have a 15 or 20-year mortgage on your building, double check when that balloon note comes due because you're probably going to need some cash to be able to refinance that. And you're refinancing that probably into a higher interest rate environment. Do I think the SBA will offer some support? So the SBA offers an EIDL loan, which is what a lot of people first accessed during COVID. You might be able to apply for that under these circumstances. But I would reach out to the SBA where I would also, and I'll mention this in a minute, where I also would look, I would reach out to your state chamber of commerce, not just your local chamber of commerce, but most states have a state chamber of commerce. They will likely be able to point you towards resources within your state for emergency funding. I would reach out to your local senator, your local rep, both federal and state, and say, hey, this is going on. What connections do we have in our state to make sure that people don't lose their jobs? That's part of what they do, part of what they get elected on. So oftentimes they'll be able to point you in a right direction there as well. We're going to talk a little bit at the end about the Change Healthcare temporary funding. They've been dangling that. I've asked Lisa to check twice today. Ironically, when you try and log in, it doesn't work. Is it still not working? Still not working, right? So go
Doesn't know.
figure, right? So Change Healthcare announced yesterday that there would be some temporary funding for people who are using this stuff. I'll kind of go through the details at the end, what we know. But you'll have to log into the Optum website to be able to see what you're eligible for. Let me see if there's any other stuff in the chat. When you come up with these plans, how long do you plan for generally? I'm thinking 30 days out. Like my whole world is to survive the next 30 days. It's kind of a one day at a time, 12-step approach, but your whole world as a business exists in 30-day cycles, right? Your rent comes due every 30 days. Your payroll goes full cycle 30 days, your expenses at home. So I am just trying to survive the next 30 days. I've always got my eye on the longer term, but uh, 30 days is what I'm working with. And I fully expect this will be resolved within a 30-day window. Change Healthcare will cease to exist in the aftermath of this if they can't fix it in the next 30 days. So we're less than a week in. I'm imagining they have all hands on deck. This is going to cause a regulatory problem for them. So I think um, that's there. Somebody said that that loan is a joke through change. Did you actually see a number? Whoever posted that? If you did, I'd love to hear what the number is. It's supposedly based on your what your claims have been for the last few weeks or a month. Somebody asked, what's the best simple way to describe this issue to our W-2 employees? They don't really understand why claims are stopping. So I'll let Lisa explain this a little more. Lisa, do you just want to jump in and explain really quickly what a clearinghouse is and how it relates to claims going out and money coming back?
Absolutely. So a clearinghouse is uh, basically the mode of transportation for your claims and your payments. When your claims leave your EHR, they hop on change, they write it through to the payer, they drop it off at the payer processes those claims, and then once they process the claims, they either pay or deny, they give that to change then carries it back to your EHR. So the issue is that we're dealing with now is if we can't get our claims to get picked up by change, they're just sitting there. The insurance company cannot process them, therefore they can't issue payment.
So Change Healthcare is the city bus system that moves our claims from home to work and then back to home. Which means, by the way, and Lisa will talk about this at the end, if you got a friend who can give you a ride, you don't need the bus, right? If you decide to just walk there yourself, and that's what a lot of people are doing is just deciding the bus is not running right now. I've got to get there somewhere, some other way. But that's what change is essentially that intermediary, right, Lisa?
Correct.
Yeah. So that leads to how do you explain this to employees, right? So here's my 2 cents. This goes back to COVID. This goes back to other moments. Um, I believe so. One of my big things is there's a huge difference between being a leader and being a manager, right? Managers require, leaders inspire. And a leader in this is going to be somebody, I think, at their best, who is a hot mess and who has a plan. I think that is the most credible leader is the one who looks at this and says, holy shit, this is terrifying. And here's what we're doing about it. That leader is credible. And I think somebody that people are inspired to follow as opposed to the person who's like, oh, it'll all be okay. And then they get blindsided, right? Clearly, your staff are seeing people talk about this elsewhere. So you can't act like it's not a big deal, right? Because the whole world is saying this is a big deal. So here's what I would tell my W-2 employees if I'm in a position where I'm having to, well, let me do it 2 ways. Let me tell you what I told my employees even today through a video. What I told my employees today is, hey, we are hand entering claims to make sure that the money does not get disrupted. Our billing and admin team are working overtime. This is a big deal, but we think we've got it covered. That's the truth. That's where I believe we're at today. If we didn't have it covered or this was going to impact payroll or something like that, then I would tell that truth and also be clear with yourself and with them that it's beyond your control and you're going to do everything within your power to make things better for them as soon as possible. So I would tell my staff, listen, this is a breakdown between how claims get from our record system to the payer and how the money gets back to us. In other words, the money is not flowing right now, and that is not our EHR. That's not necessarily us as a team. That's not the insurance company. It's the freeway is closed, right? And because of that, here's what we're going to do or what we have to do or how that's going to impact payroll. But this should be resolved temporarily. All the money that we are due will come in at some point, and we will make everything right at some point. In other words, and we've always used this term in our practice, we're going to cat in the hat this sucker, right? Which is we're going to clean up this mess before mom gets home. We are going to make everything right. We're going to put the fish back in the bowl, and we're all in this together until we get through this. Now, if you say that, and then 3 days later they see a picture of you laying on the beach in Hawaii, then you're going to have some PR problems. In the middle of this is probably not the time that you should be rolling up in your new Range Rover, or bragging how cool it is to be a practice owner, right? You have to be in the same boat as them, not throwing bread over the castle wall, right? Like you've got to be in the trenches, first in the office to fight for this, last out of the office. So I do think the answer is, and I told Lisa yesterday, you have authorized overtime for your team, whatever it takes, right? Let's get this done. This is where you make that investment, and you communicate to your staff that you're making that investment. Hell, even you being on this call should be something that you're communicating to them. Hey, I was on this call Saturday morning. I'm jumping on every piece of information I can to get this figured out. That allows them to draw the conclusion of, okay, he or she is working on this for me. So I'll swing back to that one in a minute. Let's see if there's anything else in the chat there that needs to be attended to. Okay. So places to find immediate cash. This is my long list. I'm just going to rattle through them. We talked about the Change Healthcare program. That's one place to look. I would highly recommend begin hand entering claims as fast as you can, and prioritizing the ones that also pay the fastest, right? So if you know Blue Cross in your state, once they get that claim, they pay within 36 hours. Cool. That's the one you need to prioritize just to get money in as quick as possible. In Arkansas, right, we've got Medicaid. What we file by a Friday gets paid basically the following Friday. So, we don't need to file our Medicaid claims today, but they need to be done probably by Thursday, Friday, right? So they go out. So you want to prioritize when money's coming in and begin hand keying stuff in. And then you also want to prioritize claims that don't run through Change Healthcare. So if you got any EAP stuff, anything like that you just submit directly to the payer, then go ahead and do that. By the way, Lisa, if there's any place you want to jump in here, I'm going to keep rattling off stuff, but if something cues up as an idea, just interrupt me, since inside joke, you get interrupted so much when you're trying to talk in our staff meetings, right? I see it. I would begin a collection campaign on outstanding balances. So, and once you've got all the claims filed that you can get into the system, get that money coming back in, you've got people that owe you money. It's your money. It's their responsibility that they haven't paid it. I'm not trying to be harsh or critical, but you are entitled to be paid for your service. Well paid is the best form of self-care, or one of the best forms, as far as I'm concerned. So this is when you start picking up the phone and calling people and emailing people saying, hey, you have a balance due. We need to get it. This is where you just start rerunning credit cards, especially if you have that written into your informed consent like we do, which is we can rerun your credit card at our leisure if your credit card does not process. Yes, you will get some angry phone calls or whatever. That's not your responsibility, guys. It was their responsibility to make payment, have a good card on file at the time of service. So I would begin a campaign to see where you can round up money. I have done that in cash flow crises before, and rounded up $10,000 or $20,000 in the space of an afternoon. Circle up your team, show everybody how to process credit card statements, order a pizza, and you guys all sit in the conference room and start rerunning old claims, or not claims, credit cards, things like that got denied. Let's see what else. I would send out a updated credit card form, and solicit, let people know that you take HSA, FSA cards if you can do that. We use Intake Q. I'll try and post a link or send it out as well, but we use that at least once a year to collect, did you change your insurance? Did you change your address? Do you have an updated credit card? And when we send those out, we get 50 to 100 credit cards back. That's some of the claims that weren't running. So I would do that. It probably takes a second to do an email blast to your whole client base. Don't do it as a BCC. Either use something like Constant Contact or something like that. Make sure you don't stumble into a HIPAA breach on top of everything else. I would offer, I've done this multiple times, especially when I was a solo practitioner and just trying to make sure my family's mortgage got paid. I would send out an email offering prepaid discounts. So, in other words, if people want to prepay 4 sessions or 10 sessions, you might give them 10% off. You will have people that have the financial means and they know that they want to use your services, so they'll take a 10% discount. 10% discount is not ideal, but it's better than missing your mortgage payment or missing payroll or something like that. So you might want to do a prepaid discount campaign by email to see if you can round up any money. I would also begin a targeted campaign to get your clients with the high deductibles. In other words, they've got to pay cash. How do we get those clients in for more appointments, or any of them not scheduled for follow-ups? If somebody's got to pay $150 anyway for the next 20 sessions until their insurance kicks in, let's get those clients back in as soon as possible, because all we need to do is run their credit card in the short term. Reach out to dormant clients. If you don't anyway have a practice methodology, whether you're a solo practitioner or group practitioner, for trying to reactivate clients, emails to old clients, checking in on them. I'd love to get you scheduled again. People that fell off the radar, you'll find some money there to be able to use for your practice. And then a couple other things. Offer intensive slots. So if you've been toying with intensives, this might be a great time to dip into an intensive. You offer 3-hour blocks on the weekends or something. Do a lot of EMDR. Do a lot of couples work. Again, you'll get money in the door, big chunks of it, and not ideal maybe from a work-life balance point of view, but it keeps stuff coming in. If you've been sitting on, I'm just going to throw a bunch of randoms at you here. If you've been sitting on a bunch of points on your credit card, a lot of us pile those up, especially company credit card. Use that to make your minimum payments or to free up room on your credit cards. It's not as ideal probably a lot of times as converting that to, the trip that you really wanted, airline miles, but keeping your business afloat in the short term is the priority. So use that to pay down balances. Let's see. If you haven't, we're right on the front end of tax filing season. So if you know you're getting money back, or you usually get money back, go ahead and jump on that and get your taxes filed as an individual. That can be some extra money that comes in. A lot of times as a business owner over the years, much to the chagrin of my family, we would deny our own expenses for a month or two to keep the lights on at the practice. It's nice when money comes in from somewhere else for your household. So your personal tax return refund might be a place to get money. Go to your bank. So if you have a good banking relationship, probably something more than a mega bank like Bank of America or something, go into your bank and ask for two things. Ask about a line of credit. A line of credit is like a credit card that runs through a checkbook, right? So you usually spend a couple $100 if they approve you for the right to have a line of credit. And then if you have to write a check, they then start charging you interest on whatever amount you write. A line of credit should be something that you have locked in a safe. You should not use it to buy the couch that you've really been wanting. It is literally your last line of defense before people don't get paid or your landlord kicks you out, right? You shouldn't even jump the gun right now and use it just because money's tight. It is last line of defense. Likewise, a lot of banks, especially credit unions, and if you have a spouse or partner that's got a credit union account, those are a lot of times more friendly on the short-term kind of swing loans. So go into those places, show them, rip the headlines, where it says this thing is not your fault and it's causing short-term cash flow and that the money's going to come in eventually, and ask them about emergency loans. A lot of banks have emergency loans for business owners that are $5,000, $10,000, things like that. In that vein as well, if you're using PayPal or QuickBooks, both of them offer loan features. So PayPal will offer you a loan feature. It's called PayPal Capital. It's not the cheapest in the world. It's about 15 to 20% annual interest, but they will base it based on your sales through PayPal. So if you don't have a lot of sales through there, they're not going to offer you a lot. But we use PayPal to collect on some outstanding balances, things like that. At any given point, I can get a $40,000 or $50,000 loan through PayPal if I need it, and they make me pay it back over 6 or 9 months, take out a little bit each week. QuickBooks now offers that functionality as well. So if you're using QuickBooks, They will loan you money, basically kind of the same setup. You can probably get anywhere from 25 to $100,000 there without having to do a lot of credit check type stuff. The reason they do that is they can actually see your accounting, right? So they know whether or not you're profitable or not. They know what your cash flow looks like every week. So go into QuickBooks, scroll down on the left-hand bar, you'll see something that says capital, and under that you can apply for a short-term loan, and it'll come straight out of there. If you're in a pinch, especially if you're beloved in the community, right? And this is the difference between losing staff or not, or closing your doors. This is your time to dabble with a GoFundMe, right? Or anything like that. And again, you explain it as this is an industry-wide problem. This is not our practice. Literally, we're going to have to deny services to people in crisis. Would you help fund us? So GoFundMe, Kiva, Kiva is another place that you can get short-term loans and investments from other people who just want to help somebody do well at what they're doing. This is a great time to go through your storage room. If you got a EMDR light bar sitting there, or furniture that nobody's using, right, that you've been meaning to get rid of or do something with, this is the time to get that stuff on Facebook Marketplace, or in the local therapist group, and say, hey, I need to get rid of this or this or this. At any given point, when I have practices that are in trouble do that, it's not surprising that they find $2,000 to $5,000 worth of junk that other practices have been trying to figure out how to afford, so they can often offload some of that and capture some cash back. This is a great time to host a pop-up webinar or a pop-up workshop, or something in conjunction with another partner entity. There's been times in the journey. There's times during COVID where I did, what was it? Oh, I did a bucket list workshop. So I have a great workshop that I've done for corporations on how to make a bucket list. And money was feeling tight during COVID, and I sold seats at $75 a piece, and sold like 30 seats, and that was $2,000, and $2,000 for at least my family at that point was a couple months groceries at least. So this is a great time if you got a workshop that you can dust off, do online. Any money coming in is your friend. Let's see. These are now getting towards the bottom of the barrel, so I would think very carefully about these. But if you have a ton of receivables, if you're owed a bunch of money anyway, there's companies that will loan or buy against your receivables. It's called factoring. If you know you're owed $100,000 from insurance companies, there are people out there that if you can validate that money's coming in, they'll pay you $50,000 or $75,000 for that $100,000, and they get your right to collect. So that's an option. I would use that very sparingly. There's at least one practice I know of that they use one of the online lenders that show up in their inbox all the time. Borrow $500,000 with no credit check. Well, what they're doing is making you borrow against your receivables. When they couldn't make one of the payments, that lender stepped in and cut off all payments from the insurance company, and basically put that practice in a worse position. So be very careful about doing those, but they are an option. Your retirement plan is another option. Again, I'm not recommending it, but if it comes down to closing your doors or raiding your 401k, this is a time to do it. You can typically get a loan from your 401k if you have a 401k. If not, if you have an IRA, you can talk to your financial planner, to your investment person, but there's a 60-day rollover rule where you can take money out under the premise that you're putting it into another account, and you've got 60 days to get it in there, and they don't charge you the taxes or the penalty. If it's not back in an account within 60 days, then you do get hit with that. But I've seen people use that in very desperate times as a swing loan to keep the lights on. And by the way, this would also be the point where I turn off my own retirement contributions, right? If you've been loading up your 401k or saving for your kids' college, this is probably a point if you choose between the lights being on or off and those things, you pick the business. Whew. Okay, that was my long list of that. Let me see what's in the Q&A, what questions you guys have. Let's see. So we got a couple people saying they were able to receive the emergency funding for our practice. If anybody received the emergency funding, uh, would you let us know just maybe the amount versus what your weekly collections are? You can put it in there anonymous or whatever, but just help people gauge what that is.
I think we have somebody that
Let's see.
posted.
Also, we are stopping accepting new. Oh, sorry. What's that?
I'm sorry. I think we have somebody that posted in there that they're basing that loan off of your Optum United Healthcare claim volume, not your practice volume. And it's been like
So
a
if you only
couple
got
thousand bucks.
3 Optum clients, it's not going to be that sexy, huh? So there actually is, let me see if I can find it here really quick. There is actually I'll put it in the chat. Hold on. Let's see. So they actually put up a separate temporary funding form, which is different than what they're recommending. They're saying that they want you to log in and it'll show you the amount. But let me see if I can put this in the chat here. Chat. Did that come through in the? Oh, that's the host and panelists. Everyone. So this is also the Optum form. I just put it in the chat. If you, for some reason, can't log in or don't have a login, there is a form that you can fill out and request money as well. I don't have any track record on whether or not that's worked for folks. Okay, let's see if there's other questions here. Somebody said $800 a week for 2 million annual income. Yeah, it's a not a whole lot. $3.5 million practice offered $2,100. Let me see. I'm just scrolling through the chat here. Uh,
I think
if
people
we
are
use the
wondering where.
lender for shortfalls, can we go to Change Healthcare for fees and interest payments we are required to take? Good luck with that. You should be able to, but I doubt you'll get any reimbursement from them on this. What were you going to say, Lisa? You're on mute.
Sorry. People are asking where we came up with 30 days. And I think that we were just saying to estimate how long you need to probably float things as 30 days
Yeah.
as far as Change Healthcare goes. We have no, we're just like you guys. We have no idea when they're going to fix that.
Somebody said that maybe you said, Lisa, that some of the pharmacy stuff came back online today. So pharmacies that were not able to process through Change had some access today. That makes sense because people die without their medication, right? So that means there's probably a fix in the works. Everything that I'm seeing, I'm seeing week or weeks. I doubt this will still be an issue 30 days out. I don't I don't know that any of us know that functionality won't be messed up. In other words, will therapy notes or simple practice or any of these, will there be some now additional hiccup where because claims were backed up and now they're being filed and you paper file? I mean, who knows? But I'm guessing you'll see them back online within a couple weeks. I'm not a promise on that. Somebody else said they got about 80% of their weekly connections. Okay. Okay, let me jump back into some of my points, and then we'll get to Lisa talking you through how to do this. So a couple other things on leading your team through this. Again, I want to have you hear me say right now, this is not your failure. God forbid your business even goes under because of this. This is not your failure. The average business in the United States has less than 30 days working capital. It's actually 26 days. So the average business in the United States only has enough cash on hand to survive without income for 26 days. So if your business savings account isn't big enough or whatever, join the club. That's most of America. Um, Other things on the pep talk side of this. Remind yourself and let your team know that this is bigger than your practice. This was beyond your control, that you're actively working on it, that paychecks are a top priority. I would tell your staff, I'm going to piss off landlords before I piss off you. We're going to piss off our marketing company before we piss off you. So let your team know that you are willing to alienate other parties over them. I think that's an important thing for them to hear. You need to communicate early and often. Don't have them guessing if they're going to make their next paycheck or not. If you know you're not going to make it a week from now, let them know now so that they can begin making plans, so they can adjust their automatic withdrawals, things like that. If you do know you're going to make your payroll this time around, tell them. Tell them as you hear things, all that. So you might hear my dog barking in the background. He's very upset about this Change Healthcare issue. Let everybody know that it's a all hands on deck moment. That everything anybody can do to help. Like Lisa said, we've got people from our scheduling team, our different people pitching in different ways. Repurpose people right now, pull people off non-important projects. If you've got people on salary who are just sitting there, have them help with this. Teach them how to file claims or pick up other duties that are easy so you can repurpose your cross-trained people into dealing with this. And then continue to lean on communities like this. I'll make a commercial for anybody on this call. We do a once a month coffee with Ken call. Title now sounds narcissistic, but it's just hanging out, talking with me and other practice owners about how to run your practice. Super important as far as keeping your sanity, knowing you're not alone in this stuff. We're launching one right now for solo practice owners that'll meet 2 Saturdays a month. So all of that can be found. I'll put it in the chat, as well as coaching for Lisa, who I'm going to turn it over to here in a second. Semi-private practice.com. So you can find Lisa on there for coaching. You can find those groups. If you do have to miss payroll, let me kind of end with this, and then we'll have Lisa talk. Know that you don't have to miss for everyone. So you're going to have some people that might have some flexibility, really well. They're married to a surgeon or something like that. Great. Ask them if they've got a couple days wiggle room. If you do have to cut paychecks at all, ask people what they need and by when, so that you can kind of prioritize what goes out, who goes out. As money comes in, start paying people in between payroll periods. Don't wait for the next payroll period to make payments on stuff. And then let's see. I think that's all my big stuff on missing payroll. Let me do this because my dog's barking. I'm going to let Lisa. Lisa, I sent you that list of questions that we want to talk through. Maybe just start talking through those real quick. Let me let the dog out, and then I'll come back and we'll interact on those a little bit. So again, for anybody popping in, this is Lisa Sego. She's my director of revenue. She oversees roughly the billing on about 150,000 sessions a year, 15,000 or so claims a lot of months. She's as good as they come in the industry on billing on mental health. So she's going to walk you through some of the manual kind of filing overview on this. I'm sure you'll have a lot of specific technical questions. I don't know that we can get to all of those or even some of those today, but you can definitely reach out to her for some coaching and help. So Lisa, take it over. I'll be right back.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. So the first thing, an overview of the clearinghouse. I think we discussed that, but for anybody who might have come in later, the clearinghouse is basically the bus that takes your claims from your EHR to the payer. And then once the payer processes that claim, that information gets back on the change bus and comes back to your EHR. That bus is down. That bus is broken down. So now we're going to have to find alternative ways. Now we're going to have to Uber, and it's going to be a little more costly in the respective time that we're having to put into this and possibly hanking claims. But so that's where the clearinghouse is. What happened to Change Healthcare and how it's impacting payments? They had us, for those of you who probably already know this because that's why you're on this call, their cybersecurity breach caused them to shut things down. And again, because they are the bus that carries that information back and forth between the payer and us, it's impacting payments, because if we can't send claims, we can't get them processed to receive payments. The timeline that we're hearing for resolution, they are not giving. The daily updates say almost verbatim the same thing until today, which they have posted that they have a resolution for prescriptions. So that's good. That makes me feel encouraged that now they're able to repurpose that time to work on the claims issues. So again, we're just hopeful that this will not last longer than 30 days. Um, what's Therapy Notes telling us to do? And I did see some chat where you all were a little frustrated, as were we for just a minute. At first they directed us to go to Availity, but the way that their files are when they configure to help for us to help let us send our own claims, that file doesn't look right to Availity, so they can't accept that. So now we've gone to Office Ally, which is very easy to use. You can create your own login and start uploading claims in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. I did it yesterday. So, and it's a drag and drop. You just pull up your claim, you download all of your claims from your system that will let you, and then just drag them over to that file, and it processes. And they send you email notifications to let you know what did not process. If you ever, this is very helpful. If you're on any platform, even Availity, and you sit and you see a response that ends in with a file name that ends in dot T A and the number one, that is a rejection. So just to give you a heads up on that, so you'll know what you need to work on, and or you can call Availity and ask them why that claim rejected. Um, if you want to file claims outside of your EHR, I would either use, again, Office Ally. And Office Ally has a search bar that you can type in your payer, and it will give you a list, and you can see whether or not your payer is on that site. My suggestion would be, if your payer is not on that Office Ally site as on their payer list, I would hand key those claims directly to that payer's portal. Normally, if you go directly to the portal, it cuts out Change Healthcare. If you hand key those claims directly on the portal, for example, Medicaid, uh, Availity doesn't do Medicaid, Office Ally doesn't do Medicaid, Arkansas Medicaid, at least Arkansas Medicaid, not everyone. So we have the option to load those directly to the Medicaid site. However, once again, the files aren't configured quite correctly. So we are hand keying claims onto Medicaid. They receive those directly. There is no clearinghouse involved. You are submitting that claim from you directly to them. You are skipping having to ride the city bus. So although it's time consuming, I would choose those payers, like Ken said previously, that are going to reimburse the fastest here in Arkansas. That would be Arkansas Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Better. So I would prioritize those for hand keying those claims directly to those payer spaces.
Two questions, Lisa. One, somebody asked, can you batch submit claims in Office Ally? Or do you have to put them in one by one, or can you upload? I think they're saying, can you upload a file with tons of claims and have it be done?
Yeah. I can't answer that because we use Therapy Notes, and right now our capability is one claim at a time. But I can tell you this: I think that would work because even though we have to download them one claim at a time, we can highlight 57 claims or 341 claims and drag them all over, and it's taken them without flipping out. So
And then somebody asked, so if we've already put claims into the system, like you already entered claims and Therapy Notes or whatever, what happens if you now decide to? I mean, we're already on the bus sitting in traffic, and now we're going to walk at the same time, right? Like, is it a double claim? Are we going to get paid twice? And like, what do you think happens if we start submitting direct on stuff we've already submitted through the EHR?
So worst case scenario um, is that you're going to have one of them deny for duplicate. One's going to pay and one's going to deny. That's a pain because you're going through a lot of denials, but it's better to it's better to you know do that than not do it at all. From what I understand, for therapy notes users, those claims that have been submitted up to February 21st and later will sit in a queue so that as soon as Change Healthcare is back online, those will all go. The only way that they won't go is if you decide to follow the procedure that Therapy Notes has given us to download your claim and then mark that claim as externally submitted. Then Therapy Notes will cancel that claim submission so that it doesn't have a duplicate. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Somebody asked, and some of these may be beyond the scope of this, but somebody asked anyone with information on creating the 837 file using a script or software in the marketplace from an Excel spreadsheet of the claims and then uploading to Availity. Are you tracking with what's being asked there?
Let me look again. I'm sorry, I'm looking for where you were reading, Ken.
Oh, here I can. So I'll read it to you one more time. So
Okay.
anyone with information on creating the 837 file using script or software in the marketplace from an Excel spreadsheet of the claims and uploading to Availability. So in other words, I think they're asking, is there a way, if you have an Excel spreadsheet of all your claims, is there something you can use to create the 837 file? Does that make sense? To
That makes
automate
sense.
that?
And it just depends on what format it's giving you. Um, if it's giving you a format that will translate, then that's good. Um, we don't we're not currently able to do that with Therapy Notes, other than each individual claim being a 837 file.
Yeah.
But as far as a spreadsheet, I think if the information that you had was in a language that would translate to the payer, then you could probably do that. Other than that, I can't see how you could do that.
Yeah, I think somebody said something similar to that. They said you can batch an Office Ally if you have the right format. You need a TXT format, and Simple Practice does not supply that. I think that's similar to what
Yes. So
everyone's up against.
you may reach out to Simple Practice and ask if they have gone through it's called FTP, the file transfer protocol with Availity. If they have done that, then Availity should be able to let you know if that file is in the right format.
Gotcha. Okay. So can I just keep rattling questions off? I mean, so again,
Sure.
Lisa is not a Change Care expert and works heavily in Therapy Notes. So we're giving you our best information. Hopefully it'll be helpful. Will Therapy Notes adjust claims as paid after we submit through the clearinghouse?
Um,
If
Therapy Notes is not going to mark that paid. As the user, you're going to mark that paid when you post that payment.
So if we submit directly, maybe this is a question, if we submit directly to the payers,
Mm-hmm.
will we theoretically still get an ERA back? How do we post that payment? Things like that?
Yeah, if you if you normally get an ERA electronically into Therapy Notes, when Change is back online, you will get that ERA. If you are uh, like us, and Change Healthcare still has some of those RAs for things that came in after this all happens, um, you would just have to manually post some of those payments. And here's another thing that I want you to remember to not panic about is if you have any of your payers that are paying you with direct deposit or ACH, those payments won't stop because that's not a Change Healthcare thing. That's the payer sending that payment directly to your account. So that would be probably another thing you could do during this time is see how many payers you can get up set up to do that, so that information isn't coming through any other way but directly to your bank. You may not be able to post that immediately, but the money will be in your account.
Did you mention when I was out letting the dog out? Did you mention the Availty glitch yet and all that? Because
Um, I don't think we talked about the glitch yet, but Availity is, uh, at least for Therapy Notes users, the fix that they came up with gave us that file someone else mentioned with the TXT uh, extension, and Availity does not like that. The other thing is there's some things such as uh, when I pull up the claim file on my end with Therapy Notes, it shows the rendering provider. When I'm with an Availity agent on the other end, that does not appear once it gets to them. So something's being lost in the translation. I did talk to Therapy Notes about that yesterday and did ask them about that protocol that we talked about earlier, the file transfer protocol. And it was successful when they did it, but they weren't able to do it with uh, an actual client due to PHI. I don't know why they couldn't have come up with a dummy client, but that's neither here nor there. So they are working on fixing that so that we can resume submitting claims on Availity, which would be great. But we'll see how Office Ally does. Where I'm hopeful.
and did you mention how much Office Ally is costing us for anybody that's wrestling with that?
So I was waiting through the documentation, and I can't find other than if you're submitting claims for a non-participating provider, in other words, you're out of network or you're non-par with Medicare, that I can't find a charge. And when you log on, they don't ask for any payment information. So
So, okay. Okay. Did you have other stuff on your list of questions I sent you?
let me just check really quickly. Yeah, and if anybody would like some one-on-one coaching, I'd be happy to go through how we prioritize in our practice, who's going to be doing what, where we pull off uh, to feed help into that one area. Like Ken mentioned before, if you've got folks who maybe don't know that much about the whole hand keying process, they can kind of help keep the regular day-to-day function at bay while your team is focused on just hand keying claims. Um, and this won't last forever, you guys.
Yeah. Let's see. So there's other questions that aren't too technical here. Somebody says UHC shut down. Is it worth even sending any claims to UHC? UHC is a payer. Have they been impacted by this, or is it just the clearinghouse? Have you seen an indication of that, Lisa?
So uh, they're saying that Optum UHC and GEHA are not affected by this. However, they are Change Healthcare, and they are Change Healthcare because they've merged with Change Healthcare. So we have not seen any sort of payments come in from them since the problem started. However, we are using Therapy Notes, who exclusively uses Change Healthcare as their bus, as their mode of transportation. So there's that breakdown as well. If you could hand key claims somehow to the their provider portal for United Healthcare or Optum, um, I would suggest that. We haven't started that because they're, for us in Arkansas at least, they're not the quickest reimbursement. So we haven't tried that yet, but we'll eventually get there.
Any sense of how hard it is to learn Office Ally? Does it seem pretty straightforward? Is it you need to devote a whole weekend to learning this? I think a couple people are intimidated by trying to jump on there and submit claims.
Oh gosh, let me tell you, so simple. Um, if you have the ability to download a claim to your laptop from your EHR, um, then yeah, it's so easy to sign up. You basically give them your email address, you make your own passcode, you go in and hit the submit claim button. It will ask you if you want to submit professional claims. You definitely want to say yes. But you hit submit claims, and this little box opens with this huge file, and it says drag file here. And you just do that. You just drag it right over. That's how simple it is.
Awesome. So I mean, literally 60 seconds a claim kind of thing.
Yes.
If somebody were because I know that we and Lisa's far more the expert than me, far more. So we have these moments where Lisa says, "I'm going to put through a test claim here to see if it goes through." With Office Ally and stuff, if you put in a claim, how quickly will they know if that's been successful, and they should then devote a weekend to putting through a ton of claims like that
Yesterday, it took them about 3 hours, but
for the
it
claim
is
to be recognized and accepted?
for them to let it'll tell you immediately if it's accepted. This little automated box will come with a check mark in it and say we received your claim. But for you to know that it was either accepted or rejected by the payer, that took them a while yesterday. That may also be because there was a lot of traffic, because yesterday afternoon was when Therapy Notes gave us that workaround. So probably all of us were hopping on at the same time. So
Gotcha. So in other words, it'll show instantly that the claim's been received. Whether or not it's accepted as a valid claim, even that they should see probably within a few hours.
yes,
And then at that point, if it's been accepted, then you're essentially just waiting for payment at that point. But if they see that it's accepted, then that's probably a green light to go ahead and put more claims through like that. They've got the hang of it, in other words.
yes, yes. I
Okay.
would do a test claim, and or maybe do a few test claims, because they some of them might reject for duplicate for some reason. But I would do maybe a handful and see what comes back.
Somebody said one more time, which file/claim does Office Ally like best from Therapy Notes?
Run that by me one more time.
The comment says one more time, which file/claim does Office Ally like best from Therapy Notes?
Um,
This
I,
is go ahead.
I think I might be misunderstanding that question, but there's only one file type that we can get out of Therapy Notes. That's it. We get what we get, and so they've been accepting the version of Therapy Notes with the file with the extension TXT at the end.
And that's a brand new feature. They just added that that ability to download. That's something that's been on your wish list for a long time. If I submit through Office Ally, usually I use Simple Practice and the claim is paid. Where do I get my ERA from? In Therapy Notes, if we submit through Office Ally, the ERA is still coming back through Therapy Notes, theoretically.
Yes, yes. Once if you have Change Healthcare, once they're back online, then that ERA will come back in. Again, if you have the funds and you need to post the RA, please make sure that you have the funds before you post the RA.
That way you don't forget about money you're owed. Yeah. Hey, you guys, we're going to pull it in for a landing. I've got to peel out to a client appointment, and Lisa's got a Saturday ahead of her. I'm going to post the link for our practice consulting arm of what we do on here. You can get coaching from Lisa on there. We'll also send out this recording, so if it's helpful to anybody on your team. Thank you. We hope that's helpful. We know there's a lot of questions, a lot of panic. Thank you, Lisa, for being willing to take time on your Saturday and come do this. So thank you guys. Have a great weekend. I'm going to put this in the chat one more time. So my private Practice.com. So if you go to the store on there, you can see all the different stuff that we offer. So thank you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, my pleasure.